Welcome to the Orange Flag podcast. We'll try not to be as boring as IndyCar has been lately. I'm Aries.
I'm Austin.
I'm Nicole. And WEC Full Access episode 2 came out. So we are doing once again a film review, but we are starting with something that the film reminded us of, which was the apparent family tree within Porsche Penske Motorsport. Because, as you may recall from Daytona, Matthew Jaminet decided that Kevin Estre is his and Matt Campbell's kid.
Kevin and Kevin. Kevin is our kid.
And then on one of Lawrence Vantor's blogs, it was determined that Julian Andlauer is Larry and Kevin's kid.
Yes.
So there's an entire family tree there, wherein Julian Andlauer is Matt Campbell and Matthew Jaminet's grandchild.
Yeah.
That's,
You know, winning Le Mans with your grandkid.
I don't even know what to say to
I
that.
did not even clock that!
I'm just saying. I was the only one whose first thought went to 2018?
Yes! Yes, you were the only one whose first thought went to 2018.
Nothing new.
That's great. Yeah, no, normally I'm all about 2018, but in fact, that was not my first thought this time. But yes, there was a shot in the film of Matt, Jam, and Julian all talking, and it reminded us of the existence of this family tree, so we thought we might talk about it.
Yes, I believe my text in our group chat was, look, it's the grandfathers with their grandson.
Yes. Yes, it was. But I guess to the film proper, last time we did a film review, I was intrigued by all the French that was being spoken and learned new words in French. This time, I actually knew a word in German that was being spoken and was, sent in the group text. Is Kevin speaking German? And pretty sure we determined that Kevin was in fact speaking German.
It
Wait.
wasn't French, so...
I feel like I've seen a video of Kevin speaking German before, so I was vaguely aware that he spoke German, but still.
I feel like if you work for PPM, you at least know some German.
Kevin's wife's German. That's
That
probably
too.
more why he knows German.
But I'm also saying you work for a German team, you probably know German. And then in his case, you have a German wife, you probably know German.
Probably know German.
Cannot escape the language.
None of this is drinking game, by the way, because all of this is literally in the notes. My next note is, I always forget that Larry has tattoos until he's randomly shirtless in a YouTube video, because, for some reason, he was mostly naked in this video.
Which he did say, you better not be, filming me naked. That's for, paid. Basically he was hinting at OnlyFans. I'm just saying that's what I took away from it.
Yes.
It's for the other full access.
PPM OnlyFans sounds frightening.
Terrifying.
Oh my god.
PPM, don't let them do OnlyFans.
Please no.
No.
And then I guess to actual real racing stuff. Kevin's onboards stress me out so much because the man cannot just hold the steering wheel straight and drive in a straight line. It's constant steering input. And he always looks like he's gonna crash. And he usually doesn't crash. And I'm aware of this. However, it always looks like he's going to.
Well, don't worry, it wasn't only you who seemed to be, slightly stressed about Kevin's driving, because they then this was the moment where they cut to Matt, Jam, and Julian, and Matt and Jam are just talking about Kevin's driving in the moment. And they're like, well, I guess he has to do that right now, but it doesn't look great. Also, just further proof that those two are a package deal, and you cannot separate them at any point.
Yes, because they're not in the same car in WEC,
Nope.
but they were hanging out.
Matt was like, I was in the 5 last year. Therefore, I can go hang out.
Yes, but his teammate that was in the 5 with him was not there for that scene.
No, but he's like, but I can still go over there. It's fine.
Yes.
But, well, I guess we can then talk more about the 5, the actual 5 lineup. And we talked about how last film review, Michael was basically roasting Julian. Maybe he got some feedback that he's not allowed to do that, because instead this time he was telling Julian how beautiful he is.
Yes. Do I have a last year's Rexy? Yes, I do.
There they are.
Basically like boyfriends now because they're getting called beautiful by the other one.
So another talking point was that the 6 should be very alarmed by the fact they wore one of the cleanest cars besides the 51, and weren't on the podium, which I feel like we all know why that is.
Yes, I put it in the notes. They're getting screwed by the driver ballast.
Yeah, it's almost like we haven't talked about that in multiple episodes.
One thing that I liked was that not just us, but everybody, all the drivers, everyone was pissed off about Ferrari's pace. It was very fun to see everybody complaining about it.
I think it's the only time I can say I agree with Toyota.
Yes.
It was actually very, very amusing. Everybody was just like in their own sort of little, I don't know if you can say it was a passive aggressive way, but they were like, oh yeah, Ferrari, they're already gone. Like Sabuemi at some point was like 2.5 seconds up the road.
Yep.
And I was like, yep, that's kind of what happened. We're gonna talk about people who had stuff happen to them again. Last year at Le Mans, Jota had to rebuild their car at the speediest pace possible in order to make the race. In Imola, it happened again, and they referenced that in the film.
Which, speaking of the mechanics rebuilding the car, Alex Lynn, then when he went out for qualifying, was just like thanking them, like continuously thanking them for rebuilding the car. I'm like, I think they know that you're thankful. You don't have to keep saying it.
I think he felt bad for crashing.
Yes, obviously, but he said thank you so many times, and I was like, Alex, you're beating a dead bush. I think they understand.
It did feel a bit ominous, like the background music, and then the director of Jota just standing nearby as he was getting in the car. I thought maybe he's thinking, don't mess up again. This might be your last straw. Obviously it wouldn't be his last straw, but it did give me those vibes.
Yeah. I was like, why are we using such dramatic music right now?
It got me anxious.
It's amazing how much drama they build up in this show when we know the outcome. Like, we watched the race. Why are we getting stressed out about things we know the outcome of?
Because dramatic music that I wasn't expecting.
Dramatic music.
Yes.
Oh, it's dramatic music and the little timestamps that they put in the corner.
Yes.
It's like a, I don't know, an
53
accident.
minutes to go.
Yes.
It's like it's like an air crash investigation episode or something. They're just putting the timestamps there, and you know when the thing is gonna hit the fan.
There was 6 hours of car racing, so I don't remember every minute of it by the minute.
Exactly. So it's like, am I forgetting something?
Yes.
So, still going on about the Jota people. Right at the very beginning, I think it was one of the like the first 2 or 3 lines that we hear the driver say. is Will Stevens is a very old man because he was complaining about the distance he had to walk from the entrance to where he was actually going.
How old is Will?
Old enough to
question.
have a
Younger than me.
child. That's all.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean that he's
Here,
Will
Stevens. I don't know everyone's age off the top of my head.
I
Me neither.
only know Kevin's age because
33.
we're the same age. Oh, he's like not terribly far off in age from me and Kevin.
He'll be 34 next month.
That's only 2 years younger than me and Kevin. So, like I said, I know how old one person is in all of WEC, and that's for the 6 months that me and Kevin are the same age.
Yes. But
Which is most of the season. April to October is most of the WEC season.
yeah.
True.
I feel like this Will complaining about the distance he has to walk is like
Very British of him.
Very British, but also just like I can say this as a short guy. A short guy complaint. Like
little legs.
Little legs. Although, if you ask Data, I apparently walk very quickly, so maybe I can't use that comment.
Yeah. But you keep up with me, and I do not have little legs.
So maybe
Makes
Will
me wonder
Stevens
how I
is
would
just
fare.
talking about his little legs.
Yes. He is pretty short. I've met him a couple times, and he like comes up to here on me. So
I was gonna say, I've seen him multiple times. He is a short guy, and I can say this as a short guy.
yes.
So.
And yes, how old Kevin is does count for drinking game.
Yes, it does.
How many shots are we? 2? 3? I don't know at this rate, I'm just drunk.
3, I think.
Talking about Joda guys who complain, this time it was Earl during the race. We actually heard his radio exchange during the race. He was very frustrated with one of the Peugeot guys. He was like, what is this effing clown that's driving this car? It was just a little outburst, understandable, though no one wants to be run out of room.
Didn't Duval do something like last episode? Weren't we talking about him with one of our other film reviews for being a jerk as a driver?
I feel like we were. Also, Earl wasn't the only one complaining, because then Julian complained too.
Yeah, Julian did complain.
Well, keeping in line with Joda, we'll cut back to the beginning of the film, and then Alex Lynn was just speaking Italian, which, I mean, makes sense for where they were at, but I wasn't expecting it.
I didn't know Italian was one of his languages.
Yeah.
I thought he spoke English. That was it.
Yes. Which, you know, maybe at this rate he might have to start learning French if he doesn't know it already, because his teammates
only speak French.
Only speak French.
Cadillac was not the team I expected to be speaking French all the time. Like,
no.
PPM makes sense with all their French speaking.
Yeah.
Cadillac does not.
No. Cadillac, you aren't a French team. Yes, you have 2 French drivers, but, like, you're speaking more French than a lot of the other teams that have multiple French drivers.
Not Alpine.
Not Alpine. But Alpine
they only speak French.
I was
Alpine
about to
makes
ask.
Sense. Because each car
French.
has 2 French drivers in it, and it's a French team.
Yes.
So, like, them speaking French makes sense. Caddy is not a French team. Why is, like, team personnel talking to their drivers in French?
Because Norman refuses to not speak French. That's my theory.
Well, then his teammates are going to need to learn.
Yes.
That's going to become an issue.
Maybe they already know French.
Maybe, and also maybe not for the next 2 rounds. Maybe, just because of where they're going.
Yeah.
That's true. They are in French-speaking places the next 2 rounds.
Yeah. I feel like we just can count on full access now, at least being like, it almost feels like half in French.
In French, yes.
Keeping online with the French and Alpine, the 35 apparently was killing everyone in turn 12, according to the 35 themselves, because they were talking about how they can't accelerate on the exit of any low speed corners except for turn 12, and that they were just killing everyone. That's an interesting way to phrase it, but okay. 35. You do you, including bringing your baby to the autograph signing session. And it was not Charles who was the baby, it was the driver's actual baby. Charles is like the baby of that car because he's so young. But there was an actual baby this time, and I was like, what is a baby doing here? I was not prepared for this child. And then made me throw back to like when we were in Miami for FE and Oliver like having his daughter for the signing, and I was like, is this just becoming a thing now?
I think so.
Customer cars in GTP and Hypercar, where do they live? What do they eat? Are they even real? Frankly, it feels like every...
What was that transition?
I don't know, it just popped into
That
my
was
mind.
amazing! No, I loved that.
It was great, but I wasn't expecting it.
I'm a box of surprises. I just went National Geographic on YouTube.
Yes, yes you did.
You know, it is the season again. It feels like every point during the year, someone brings up the customer car discussion, and this time, surprisingly, it's BMW. Because a few years, maybe I think it was last year, I don't remember, they were saying, oh yeah, maybe if we have customer cars, it's gonna be close to the end of the regulations or something. And now all of a sudden they're like, oh no, maybe as soon as next year we can maybe have customer cars available if a team has what it takes to run a car. And I'm like, that was a course reversal.
Well, to be fair, a couple of years ago, near the end of the regulations would be now, because the LMDH regulations are supposed to expire in 2 years, so this would be near the end of the regulations.
I was gonna say, before they started willy-nilly extending everything, this would have been
okay
around
with the extensions.
I'm okay with the extensions, but I'm saying before they started willy-nilly extending everything, this would have been around the time of the original timeline. So
I wonder if that's maybe, there's been a discussion about Rahal potentially not being BMW's factory team on the IMSA side of things from next year, and it's potentially going to be WLT just doing a Penske basically and running BMW's cars both in the WEC side and in the IMSA side.
Can we not call it doing a Penske? That reminds us of Penske.
Yes, we tried
Can we call it doing a PPM?
That. Yeah,
possibly.
We try to forget.
Says doing a PPM in the notes, and then you just whipped out doing a Penske.
I'm trying to not look at them. My mind is a bit weird today.
You should have looked at them for that, because we just got triggered.
There's Penske in the logo, though, so...
Yeah, but we try to actively forget about
Penske on the car, too.
Yes, it does.
It says Penske on my specifically for Porsche Penske Motorsport coffee.
The sacred coffee.
Coffee.
Yes.
963. Yes. You can buy it on the internet. I don't know where on the internet. Sacred Coffee.
Just go to
not an ad. They're not paying me.
It's on
Go to Matt's Linktree, and you can find the coffee.
Because he just has all his sponsors.
I think the link in Matt's Linktree doesn't let Americans buy it. There's a special website for Americans.
It transferred for me because I clicked on it one time. I don't drink coffee.
I have 2 bags of fancy PPM coffee now, so yes, They can do the podcast.
Dude,
No, those just arrived today, so I haven't drank them yet. I don't know. The Andre coffee is really good.
Yes.
I have that at work. I make coffee at work from that.
All I know about the 9631 is apparently it's supposed to taste like hazelnut.
Let's see what it says. Roasted specially for the endurance team and drivers at Porsche Penske Motorsport by Sacred Coffee. Our coffee from the Monte Carmel region of Brazil. Hey, Aries, where is that? So I feel like
Of
this is
course.
actually just Felipe Nasser coffee.
Which is
Where's
weird.
my flag? Where's my flag?
Okay, so it says it is carefully harvested and undergoes a natural process of drying. The beans are then sent to the coffee roastery in North Carolina, USA, where it is expertly roasted to highlight the notes of dark chocolate, walnut, cocoa, and almond.
Okay, so I was wrong about the type of nut. It's apparently not hazelnut. It's walnut.
But yes, 963 coffee. Let's see, there's a little 963 right there. And it's very intense and apparently good for espresso, which I'm going to use it in my fancy espresso machine that I got. So perfect. Not an ad, because we did not get paid by the coffee people, nor did they send me that coffee for free. So, not an ad.
Yeah.
I guess I'm going on an expedition to the place where they grow that.
Yes! Take pictures.
Yes.
I am going.
Is it nearby?
Yeah, where is it?
Not. I don't think it's in my state though. It could be on, but one of the neighboring states is very well known for its coffee, so it could be very close.
Nice.
Okay. We're gonna need a breakdown of Brazil and coffee regions, apparently.
Yes. Brazilian coffee geography with the Orange Flag podcast.
I was about to ask, when did this become actual geography?
I mean,
I just determined right now that it is.
yes. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
I guess back to actually talking about BMW and not PPM and coffee.
Back to the customer car discussion, yes.
There's 0% chance Ganassi's going to be a customer team, because that's not their style. They will be a factory team for somebody, and they've pretty much already said it's not going to be BMW, so I think that has them out of the BMW running.
Gotta wait and see how that goes. Someone else who is also not going to buy an MV8 hybrid is apparently Turner Motorsports, because people were I believe they quoted something about it, or they were mentioning it in a tweet, and they just straight up went, "No, don't expect it. No,
No tacos
yeah.
for you."
No."
Yes, no taco BMWs.
No tacos for BMW.
And then I was thinking, well, I really just expanded off of our good friend Jaga's theory about Inter-Europol being everywhere,
Yes.
as she thinks they will be. Could one of the LMP2 teams even afford to run a single car GTP effort? Like,
That is a
thinking
very
through
good
the
question.
teams, I don't think so.
I feel like the only ones maybe could be Inter-Europol, and that involves a lot of financial input from the one of the main sponsors is CrowdStrike by APR.
Yeah. I was gonna say, if anything, I could see like Inter-Europol, APR, because they're both teams that are in like so many places, it feels like, but I feel like for either of them to do it, they would have to like step back largely from a lot of things that they do.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like Inter-Europol is looking at expanding rather than like only doing a single series or anything, because now they're apparently doing Nürburgring stuff, so that's cool. Like, that came out of nowhere, so I actually wouldn't be surprised if we saw them suddenly in GTP.
Yeah.
Oh, I can already hear the fireworks starting in Poland.
I need everybody to stop trying to put Jamie Chadwick in the Genesis Hypercar program. One, she's not actually that fast.
Nope.
She's one of the slowest silver drivers. She's not that much faster than some of the fastest bronze drivers. And she's tiny. Driver weight ballast completely, like, if you think we're complaining about the offset that Julian Andlauer and Matt Campbell create in the Porsche Penske Motorsports situation, oh my gosh, if you put her in a car with Andre Lauderer, who is close to 80 kilos, and I can't find a weight for her, but she's probably under 60. The weight ballast situation there is going to be ridiculous. So it's just something that everybody has been on about because that car has been doing really well, but let's be real, it's Danny Uncadella that is dragging that car to where it is.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then it's not Jamie. So
if you look at the 3 drivers in that car and you look at like their lap times, it explains a lot about
yes,
who should and shouldn't be in the hypercar. And I'm just gonna leave it there.
Yeah, it's
and I
the
mean,
most concrete piece of evidence. It's you just need to look it up. Literally, just need to look it up. It's right there, like it or not.
let's go ahead and talk about IndyCar. Apparently they're just changing tire regulations mid-season now. The Indy road course is going to have mandatory 2 primary, 2 alternate, or, for all these new fans that don't understand what primary and alternate is, 2 hards and 2 softs.
Whoopee!
Put me
I
out of my
have no
misery.
idea why they're doing this.
Put
It's
me out of my
ridiculous.
misery. I hate it so much.
It's ridiculous, honestly. I don't know if it just feels like a gimmick at this point. I wonder who is trying to out gimmick each other here. Like, F1 has been slammed for their mandatory 2 stops at Monaco, and now Indy, in a track that's not particularly hard to overtake is doing this 2 sets of each tire being mandatory during the race. It's I don't have a word for this other than it's ridiculous.
IndyCar's just flailing right now because they don't know what to do about the hybrid and the fact that the hybrid is destroying racing. Nobody is driving to the limit. Nobody is even pushing. So no one's crashing. No engines are blowing up. No, parts are failing because everyone's driving around at 80%. It's insane.
Yeah. They're trying to find any possible way in their eyes, I feel like, to make the racing like more exciting and more enjoyable. They're not the only series doing it. Like Formula E for their like doubleheader races is bringing back Pit Boost, which was at Monaco. So multiple series are doing this weird thing where they're trying any which way to try to make racing more exciting, and it's not really working.
It just, I don't know.
If
Something needs to be done to fix IndyCar, and I don't know what the fix is other than saying, hey, this hybrid is not working. Let's scrap it for now and develop the 2027 car that they're supposedly going to do around the concept of having a hybrid so that the weight isn't unbearable.
Yeah, I just feel like it feels like the hybrid was rushed and just not prepared properly.
It was.
And we're seeing the consequences of that. And I know a lot of people are saying Indy Next is having this same issue. Why aren't we talking about Indy Next? It has the same amount of races. Also, I feel like flat out everyone expected Dennis Hauger to annihilate his competition.
Yeah, something that I even tweeted about this after the Miami Grand Prix. I came into this weekend expecting Indy at Barber to be more exciting than F1 at Miami. Guess I was wrong. Very wrong.
Yeah.
I feel like after this race weekend, we can't deny it anymore. It feels like there's been a conversation over who the top McLaren driver is, and everybody's been trying to say it's Pato because he's been with the team the longest. You can't deny it anymore. It's Christian Lundgaard. His results this season have proved he is the top driver for this team.
Yeah, I don't think that anyone expected it because that car, that team was supposed to be difficult to assimilate to, and he's just come in and been incredibly successful. So that's really, I think, a testament to him as a driver.
Yeah. I will say he did bring some guys who he's had with him throughout his career with him when he made the jump, but still, he's adjusted to the 7 team, the team in general, so well, and our next race weekend is one of his best tracks that he's had results at. So this is only going to continue. He's going to continue to get podiums and possibly get a win. I think it could happen. But he's one to watch, and I, without a doubt, I'm going to say he is the top McLaren driver.
No doubt.
Absolutely. Honestly, looking at the way the team's 3 cars are performing, I'm not even gonna dive into Nolan because he's still getting to grips with the team, the car as a whole. But it feels like Christian has been with the team like for ages, and Pato is the one trying to adapt, and not the other way around. If you told me that Christian was in his 4th or 5th race with the team he was getting into, I would be saying like you're crazy. But no, Pato is just stumbling after him. Kind of hurts to say that, but because I like Pato, but it's the truth.
It's flat out just the facts. If you look at results, like even for a guy who didn't qualify well, like this race, like he then was on the podium, so he knows how to drive this car. Maybe it's the fact he actually does the sim. Who knows? But he obviously gets along well with this car.
I went to the NASCAR race at TMS this weekend. I was at all 3 races, trucks, Xfinity, and Cup. And one thing I noticed at the truck race that I think, because I've been going to this race for 6-7 years, the crowd at the truck race was very different this year. It was a lot of like my age people, like just people in their 30s that were just going out with their friends to the truck race. And I think trucks may be the way to grow NASCAR, man. Like, you know, they're such wild races. They have a lot of that energy that I think people expect from NASCAR, especially people my age that do potentially remember like old school NASCAR. Trucks brings that energy, and it's just, you know, it's fun and exciting. There were a million cautions because of that. You know,
because it's
you've
trucks.
got, everybody is just driving the wheels off these things.
Yeah.
And it's fun. It's just fun to be at. The atmosphere was fun. But honestly, the whole weekend seemed up in attendance. So I can't wait to see the actual attendance numbers from TMS, from NASCAR on this, because it seemed like it was double the crowd at the Cup race from last year. So that's good. Maybe we'll get a second race back, because we lost the second race because no one was going to either race. But that also could be why. It could be that, hey, one race is something people will go to.
Yeah.
It was also a nice weather weekend. It was not 100 degrees air temp, so it it was comfortable for people to be in the stands.
Yeah. I feel like just though, even in general, NASCAR seems to be growing in popularity. It feels like social media wise, I feel like I've seen a lot more people talking about NASCAR than I've seen in the past. So it feels like people are starting to become NASCAR fans more now, which I'm down with. Trucks, though, I think is a good introduction for a lot of people because of the chaotic driving, but also you have guys that do crossovers, Xfinity guys that do trucks, Cup guys that do trucks, and then you also have guys who just start their career in trucks. So you can grow with a driver through their career if you pick them up in Truck Series. So there's just a lot that goes with being able to watch Truck Series and actually get a really good race, but also just be able to grow with the driver as well.
Yeah, and then in the Xfinity race, obviously Connor Zilic was still recovering from his crash. So Kyle Larson was in his car, and he said that he likes doing the Xfinity races to embarrass NASCAR, and he absolutely did that again because it was insane, the gaps that he was pulling on the field on the restarts. I was kind of sitting in turn 4, and by the time that he would get to me, it'd be half the turn. Like, the rest of the field would be up at the top of the turn, and he'd be exiting the turn. It's like, that's insane to do that in less than a lap. I mean, it was impressive to watch. It was definitely a fun race to watch.
And I think he's right in the fact that Cup guys doing Xfinity is a good way to kind of give these kids a wake-up call that you still got some learning to do before you get to Cup Series. You still got skills you need to hone in, and I mean, he's showing that.
And even his commentary about the way that the cars drive differently. Yeah. The reason that when Xfinity guys do one-offs in Cup that they struggle is because the cars really do drive dramatically differently. And that's something that's maybe not feedback you would get or take seriously from an Xfinity guy. Oh yeah, the Cup car drives so different. Okay, whatever, kid, you just don't know how to drive. When Kyle Larson says it, you take it seriously.
Yeah, and his commentary about literally the bumps being different for how they impacted him in Xfinity versus Cup. We saw it flat out with Jesse Love. When he crossed over, because he did a double this weekend, so he did both Xfinity Cup. When he basically was taking the same line he would take with Xfinity, going very high, and that didn't work for him when he went and drove the Cup car. So Kyle flat out said that was what for him was the same exact thing, and it showed in the race as well.
Yeah.
Well, something I just thought was funny and a good silly talking point was social media from NASCAR this weekend was kind of silly because Chase Briscoe's entire crew got a die cast of his Bass Pro Shops car, and they were holding it and taking photos with it like it was a fish that they just caught for a TikTok. And I just thought that was the funniest thing ever. And now I need any driver who drives a Bass Pro Shops car to do that as well.
Yeah, I didn't being at a race, you end up not seeing any of the social media from the race. So I need to go back and look at this because I saw that in the notes and I'm like, that sounds funny. I need to see that.
I'll find it. I'll send it. But literally in my mind, I was like, Junior Motorsports, get Carson on this.
Yes.
You make the boy go to Bass Pro Shops if they're near the track that you guys are at to sign hats in the shop. You need to get him to get a little die cast of his car and pose with it like it's a fish. Well, Formula E happened. It was kind of chaotic. There was weather stuff.
Rain.
That really impacted a lot of things about this race. But one thing that was kind of brought up was this has been a year since when Taylor Barnard made his debut filling in for Sam Bird last year at Monaco. And he came back in a good way, getting pole at Monaco. Obviously, not a good race for him overall, either one of them, race 1 or 2, but he got pole, and I feel like there has been some conversations with the fact that McLaren announced that they're leaving the series. Like, they'll find somebody else to take over the team, but they will no longer be involved in the series after this season. A lot of people were like, maybe they're just, like, not going to care anymore about this season. And I feel like we can show they still care. Sure, they didn't get great results, but they tried.
Yes, yeah, it was kind of sad seeing Taylor walk away with. I don't think he scored any points this weekend. That
I mean,
sucked.
you get points for pole, so besides that.
Yeah. Someone whose win drought I didn't realize had been this long in FE was surprisingly Sebastian Buemi, because that guy's like one of the guys at the top of Formula E statistics. Like, he's been there since the early days. I remember because I followed Formula E during its like first 3-4 seasons. I kind of stopped following after a while, and then I came back when they moved to like this latest Gen 3 regulation. I got back into it only like a couple of years ago. I was surprised to learn that he had before this weekend his last win had come in 2019. I thought, what?
I was surprised, but also not surprised, because I was like, thinking about it, I was like, man, I didn't realize it's been that long. And then I was like, actually, no, that makes sense, because I'm trying to think of the last time Sebastian Buemi won a Formula E race, and I can't remember when it happened.
True.
And then, I guess, moving on to Formula 1, the Miami Grand Prix was this weekend. It also rained. There was rain everywhere, because it also rained here in Texas. So, lots of rain everywhere. But Cadillac did all their, hey, look, we're here stuff. And they were said to be courting drivers at the race. And Mick Schumacher was at the race, so everyone was like, oh, he's probably going to drive for Cadillac next year. And I mean, maybe he will, maybe he won't. He just doesn't fit in with what they're saying that they want. They want someone with a lot of Formula One experience, or an American, or both. And he is not really either of those. He's not doing anything with Formula One right now. Like, I know he did some time in Formula One, he did some time as a Mercedes reserve, but he is not associated with Formula One right now. So it feels like he's kind of stepped away from that as a possibility.
Unless we don't know, and Mick has gotten American citizenship, and he is now an American, so he meets that qualification.
Yes,
Yeah.
maybe. Colton Herta's fangirls will be heartbroken if Mick Schumacher is the American driver for Cadillac. So I did not watch the pre-race, I did not watch the post-race, and I didn't even really watch the race because I was at NASCAR and they were on at the same time. So I was kind of trying to, I've got my nice noise canceling headphones, so you can physically watch NASCAR and listen to Formula One while having noise canceling. Great plan. So I was able to listen to the F1 race, but I didn't anything that was like, oh my gosh, did you see what Max did? Or did you see the Oscar hit the griddy? Like, no, I didn't see any of that. So I've basically said all I have to say about F1.
Well, yes, then I guess we could lead right into it. Oscar did hit the griddy? Question mark? It really wasn't the griddy. He tried to hit the griddy. He then got roasted by everybody, including the commentators, about his griddy. But it came from the fact that Justin Jefferson, who's like known for making the griddy like the big deal in the NFL, was at the race this weekend and was doing content with McLaren, and they made a bet basically in a video that like the team posted that if Oscar won this weekend, he had to hit the griddy. And Oscar flat out said because he didn't qualify well, which fourth isn't bad, but go off, I guess, that he just didn't even think about practicing the griddy because he wrote off winning the race. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he didn't practice hitting the griddy, and then, like, on his lap after he won was like, oh, yeah, I have to do that. And we all saw the result of his terrible griddy. It was really bad.
Next
But
time,
also-
maybe Oscar. Next time, maybe think about a bit of practice when you strike a bet with someone. However unlikely the outcome might be. Just a few words of advice.
Yeah. Also, what are you thinking that fourth is just instantly like, I'm not gonna be able to win the race? Okay, my dude. You do you, bud. But also, it was just like the complete opposite of the normal celebration we get from Oscar, because this kid does not show any emotion. So everybody was like, why is this child hitting the griddy? The beginning of the race was also very amusing because the driver's parade for this race wasn't like a normal driver's parade. Basically, all of the Legos. Oh, wait, we've got podcast props. Basically, these Lego sets they made into like the basically scale of the F1 cars, and made it to where both drivers could fit into them, and they had to drive those around for the driver's parade. And the guys were having a blast. They said the best race of the weekend was the Lego race. And it got very chaotic. Before it even started, there was beef between drivers about who got to drive the Lego car, specifically Williams. Alex really wanted to drive it and obviously lost out because Carlos, like, quickly got into the car while Alex was doing an interview. And then while they're driving them around the track, Pierre Gasly was just being very chaotic and crashing into everyone. The Mercedes got abandoned, and Kimi Antonelli just ran away and left George Russell behind to fend for himself.
I'm gonna be honest, I saw some clips online of this. I thought that was like a CGI animated thing, not like a real thing. That shows how checked out of the broadcast I was. I didn't realize this was an actual thing that they actually drove around the track. I thought it was like maybe this was one of those races where Sky was doing a kids broadcast and that was like the animated stuff for the kids broadcast or something. I had no idea that was the parade, like the driver's parade.
Yes, it was the driver's parade. It was great. So much so that then they like got interviewed afterwards, and Max was just very concerned about there being Legos on track. He was like making very sure that they went and cleaned the track before they went racing. He was like, the Legos will cause damage. It was also just very chaotic because then obviously Max has had a baby. And Yuki's comments about why he should be in the back seat was because Max is a dad now, so he can drive safely as if Yuki is his baby.
Wow. Okay.
What is in these guys' minds
It
sometimes?
was just so chaotic.
No, that was great actually. When I first learned that they were doing this in partnership with Lego, I thought, oh, not another F1 silly gimmick again. Well, I was glad to be proven wrong because this was very, very entertaining. Like one of my friends on Twitter was that I think this was the best comment. She was like, maybe they should have just done away with the sprint race and they should have just let them race these instead to honor the
That
hard
would be
work of the people.
awesome.
Yes. Everyone at the race was also confused on what was going on apparently as well, because it wasn't talked about the fact that they were just driving Legos around the track. But it was great.
Maybe I walked away from it feeling, I don't know, like that it was something good and complete in a sense, because I was not expecting much from it. So
Yeah, I wasn't expecting much from Miami. It gave us a lot, including a woman on the podium, because Louise McEwen, I'm going to assume that's how you pronounce her last name, she's the chief marketing officer for McLaren. She was the team personnel that went up on the podium to represent the team for the win. And she is apparently the 11th woman to be on the podium in F1. So, very awesome.
Very nice.
Very nice to see. And just further proof that women do belong in motorsport.
indeed they do.
And then, I guess, just moving away from Miami and into general F1 news, it was coming out that Alpine either has decided to drop Jack Doohan or is considering dropping Jack Doohan. He is one of only 4 drivers that hasn't scored points yet this season, but he's also just been really unlucky.
Yeah.
And he's a true rookie. Like, how long should a rookie get to prove himself? Even Logan Sargent got a full season and then half of another season to prove himself. And I don't count what Red Bull does with their people switching around, because they're not losing a seat. And the way that Red Bull structures their contracts is that they can do that with their drivers. That doesn't count as losing your seat. It counts as being switched to a different car, because contractually they're a 4-car team.
Yeah. Red Bull is the exception in this. Like, you gotta take them out of the equation in these talks.
And I mean, the real comparison here is pretty much looking at what happened with Logan Sargent. And I think that Williams tried to have trust in him until they just didn't anymore, until he was no longer making progress. And Alpine is not giving Jack an opportunity to make progress. They're just, hey, you've done a couple races and you've been really unlucky, so we're gonna put another driver that, in all likelihood, it's because he brings a ton of money into that seat.
I don't doubt. I have no doubt about it.
Yeah. People are trying to say it's because of the amount of damage Jack has cost Alpine this year. I would like to point out Franco Colapinto last year cost Williams a lot of money as well, with the amount of damage he created with his car. So it's not like that's going to end. I've always said I think a rookie, in my eyes, deserves one full season to prove themselves. And then after that, if you want to move away from your rookie, you can move away from your rookie. But I think the amount of time Alpine's giving Jack is not enough time. I think also something that needs to be remembered, compared to other rookies that at least were doing F2 last year, he was just a reserve driver last year. He wasn't doing any racing last year. So he wasn't even getting laps around the track even in an F2 car last year like his fellow rookies were. So he really kind of had a year off in a sense, like he was just doing reserve duties.
I think that the format of the Formula One calendar right now is a real disservice to rookies as well, with it being a street heavy beginning of the year. Because I would say that, at least get let them get through the European leg, right? So
Yeah.
let them get onto some of the more traditional racetracks and see how they do there. That was kind of where, last year we started seeing Oscar really come into his own, was on more traditional racetracks during the European leg, because I think those are the tracks everyone's a lot more familiar with, right? Like
Yeah.
they're ones you've done in a junior series. They're ones that, if you have a sim rig at home, they're probably the ones that you're doing iRacing on with your buddies. Like they're just more familiar, so I think they're more representative rather than a lot of these street circuits that are not.
Yeah, I feel like for me, something I noticed with this is maybe I have beef with Alpine. Like maybe we have a toxic relationship. Because they apparently like axing my Alpine drivers and replacing them with drivers I don't like.
Like Jules Gounon.
Yes. Because they axed my 36 car that I liked. LaPierre is now like helping run the team. But Voxavier, yeah, it's confusing. We don't really understand his relationship with the team. Voxavier we thought was gone, but then now might be doing reserve duties. Unclear. But he's supposedly not with the team.
Yeah, your whole car went from like a car to like running the team, maybe a reserve driver.
Is still in car.
Yes.
Nick is the only one left, but I went from
Yes.
literally having like my car that I really liked to now it's just all thrown over the place. And then Jules Gounon came in, and I'm like, I don't like him. And then Alpine is like, my F2 driver that I really liked is now an Alpine driver. Never mind, you thought. It's now possibly going to be Franco Colapinto. And Franco Colapinto's fan base has made it impossible for me to like Franco Colapinto.
They're very aggressive.
So.
Yeah, they are very, very aggressive.
Indeed. I mean, some people, I've already mentioned the intensity of like South American fan bases on the internet. I can say that, so I know where I'm coming from, literally and metaphorically. But still, it's annoying. It's very off-putting. It doesn't make others feel comfortable in a sense. Like, I don't know, if it feels like if it feels like this target of sorts has been on painted on Duan's back for a while. Like I feel like his relationship with the team started off in a bad note, like when they put him in place of Ocon for Abu Dhabi last year. It already started weird. People were saying, "Oh yeah, this might be the only actual Grand Prix he gets to drive, like as an actual race start." Oh, and now this, and from what people have told me and from what I've seen, every little post on most of the social media posts that Alpine has done with Jack in there, or Jack as the main sort of driver featured in there, there's been a lot of Argentinian flags in the comments. Bit annoying,
to the point where they're having to lock down, like, you can't comment on some of their posts about him because they just want to shut out the hate, and it's a lot easier to lock down comments than it is to go through and manually delete 5,000 Argentinian flags.
To where it's also become an issue on Jack's personal accounts as well.
Again, what we always say about people not being reasonable fans.
Yes. It was apparently even a problem in person at Miami for him as well. It's really uncalled for and unnecessary.
And then we can't record an episode today on this Monday without making sure to memorialize two racers that we lost today. British Superbikes had a race, and there was a massive crash right at the beginning of the race, and 2 young riders were lost in that crash. Owen Jenner was 21 years old and died at the track from an injury sustained in that crash. And Shane Richardson was 29 and on the way to the hospital succumbed to his injuries from that crash. And, you know, all of us have our thoughts with their friends and family and the friends and family of the other riders involved in that crash, who are in critical condition and facing serious injuries as well.
And to just all the competitors as well, because they may be your competitors, but at the end of the day, like, you're still going to be friends with your other competitors too, and like seeing this happen is not something you'd wish on anyone.
No, it's at a time like this that you are reminded that at the end of the day, it's, what these guys do is still something that's still very, very dangerous. It's straightforward. It's still something very, very dangerous, and those situations can and unfortunately still do happen sometimes. So it's not something we would like to be here talking about, but unfortunately it happened. Thanks for listening. You can find us on Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube at Orange Flag Pod. On Twitter, Nicole is at Cars on the Street, Austin is at Hendrik Claren, and Aries is at Aries_Alpenglow. Stay orange.